Welcome back everyone to your favorite channel Knowledge Adda, powered by Vision Educare, and my name is Akash Jaiswal. Today's video is the continuation of my previous video on statistics. So this video is statistics part 2. Those who have missed the statistics part 1, that is my previous video or my first video, can find the link of the first video in the description box. Make sure that you go through that video and then come back for this video so that you understand this video very nicely, because I have explained some basic concepts over there. Just to give you a small review what we have done in the last video. In the last video we have already done the introduction of statistics, what are the uses of statistics, what are the scopes of statistics. When we talk about statistics, what do we have to study in statistics in the 10th standard, that is measurement of central tendencies. We have also understood how to calculate the central tendencies. In the calculation of central tendencies, we follow three important methods, that is calculation of mean, calculation of median, calculation of mode. In the previous video, we have also understood there are multiple methods of calculation of mean, that is direct method, assume mean method, and step deviation method. In the previous video, I have also given you some important concept before starting with any of these methods of calculation of mean. With that, in the last video, I have already completed the very first method, that is direct method of measurement or measuring of mean. Now in this video, we'll be focusing on the second method, that is assume mean method. Now before we start with the video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and do hit the bell icon to get the notification related to my upcoming videos so that you don't miss any of my videos and score best in your exams. Now let's get started with this video. So in this video, we are focusing on mean calculation by assume mean method. Now what is this method? As the name suggests, assume mean method, in this method, you are gonna assume the mean before you start with your solution. Now you'll be thinking that's so easy. You don't have to remember or calculate or find out the mean. You can directly assume the mean. It seems very easy, but there are some tricks and tweaks which are over here, which is gonna be different from the direct mean method. Okay, before we start with this method, let's get to know what are the steps, and then we'll solve one question so that you understand how do we solve this in your exams. Okay, let's get started. If you get the question, how will you solve it? Let's start with the very first step, that is make a 5-column table. Do you remember in the last video we have also made a table? Yes, in the direct mean method we have created a table of 4 columns. In this method you will create a table of 5 columns. So let's get the table in place. Yes, can you observe the 5 columns? Yeah. In the last video I have already explained each and every question will give you two important piece of information in the question only. What will be that? That is class interval. So you have to first of all write down the class interval and the frequency, which will always be given in the question wherever you have to calculate the mean. Now what are these 3 columns for? The next column, before you go for the next column, you have to remember you have to also calculate class height. Now what is this class height? In the last video I have already explained what is class height. That is the value obtained by subtracting 2 consecutive lower limits or 2 consecutive upper limit, which is denoted by small h. Now once you calculate this, you have to go for the second column, that is class mark. This is also we have done in the previous video. This is denoted by xi. This is calculated very simply by doing a sum of lower limit to the upper limit of the class interval divided by 2. Now once you are done with this, in this method, as the name suggests, you have to assume the mean. Did we assume the mean till now? No. So right now we'll assume the mean. We assume the mean from the class mark. Don't forget this. A lot of time students get confused with this. You have to assume the mean from the class mark. Now it could be any mean. Could be from the first one, could be from the second value, could be from the third value. Now my personal suggestion would be take the mid value. Now why do I have to take the mid value? If I take the first or third value, will that give me a wrong answer? No, students. But if you take any of the extreme values, the calculation would be lengthy for you guys. And if you take the mid value, it will be really easy for you to calculate. Therefore, I personally suggest taking the mid value. Once you do consider the assume mean, please make sure that you write it at a side. And assume mean is denoted by capital A. Make sure you write it down in your answer paper or else your marks will be reduced. Now once you assume the mean, do you get the final answer? No, because you have just assumed a mean. It could be correct It could be incorrect, or it could have some deviation from the correct answer. It could be nearby from the correct answer. So how do I reach out to the correct answer? For that, you have to find out how much difference it have from the exact answer to your mean answer. Now how do I do that? You do it with finding out the deviation or the correction value from your assumed mean to your exact mean. For that, you have to remember, you have to fill the third column with deviation. Now how do I calculate the deviation? It is very simple. You take the class mark and subtract the assumed mean from it. You get the deviation. Now once you get the deviation, the final column which you have to fill, that is the product of frequency with the deviation. Now is our table ready? No students, you have to calculate the total as well. Now what do we total over here? We always total the frequency, which is denoted by capital N or summation of Fi. All the frequency has to be added over here. Similarly, you will add all the values of FIDI over here. Now once your table is ready, you go for the second step. What is the second step? Second step is very simple. In the second step, you are trying to find out the mean deviation, that is D bar, using a formula which is already given. D bar is equals to summation of FIDI divided by summation of FI. Now so we got the mean? No student, this is the mean of deviation. It is not the final mean. So how do I get the final mean? As we have just now talked about, you have assumed a mean which could be nearby from the exact mean. So that must be, there must be some correction. What if you take the assumed mean and add the correction to you so that you reach the exact mean? That's what we do in the third step. We find out the mean by simply adding the assumed mean with the mean of deviation which we have just now calculated. So are you confused? Are you afraid with these two formulas? Don't be afraid, this is gonna be very easy. Only thing which you have to remember is these steps and the formula. Do remember, don't mix up these formulas. Do remember which formula is for the direct mean method, which formula is for assumed mean method. Let's take one example so that all your fears goes away. Let's take the very simple question. The question says that the following frequency distribution table shows the amount of aid given to 50 flood affected families. Find the mean of the amount of aid. So what the question is asking? The question is given you is that there are some aid amount given to the flood affected families. Total 50 families were there. And this aid is given in 1000 rupees. So can we say that 7 families have received aid of 50 to 60,000, 13 families have received aid of 60 to 70,000, 20 families have received aid of 70 to 80,000, 6 families have received aid of 80 to 90,000, and 4 families have received aid of 90 to 100,000. Now we can go about the solution. You have to calculate the mean of the amount of aid. Now before we start with the solution, you have to identify two things. Students, remember, every question gives you two important pieces of information, that is class interval and the frequency. Can you identify which one is the class interval and which one is the frequency? Yes, you are correct. Amount of aid is the class interval. As you can observe, there is an interval between this. You have a lower limit and a higher limit. And number of families is your frequency. So what are we waiting for? Let's start with the solution. Very first step, what do? We get the table in place. How many columns in this table? Yes, 5 columns. Let's get this 5 column table in place. Very firstly, let's do very important thing. Whatever data is given in your question, let's just copy paste it. Okay, so we are starting with the very first information given in your question, that is class interval. Let's copy it down. Yes. What is the second piece of information given in the question? Yes, you are correct. The frequency. Let's copy it down. Now once you are done with this, you have to calculate the class height. Remember? Yes, and you have to write it somewhere. How do I calculate the class height? So very easy. It is a subtraction of 2 consecutive lower limits or 2 consecutive upper limits. In this case, I am considering 2 consecutive lower limits, that is 50 and 60. So 60 minus 50 gives me 10. So class height or class width would be 10, which is denoted by small h. If you calculate for any other class interval, you will find that all the class intervals will give you the class height of 10 only, because the class height remains the same. Now moving further, we have to find out class mark, which is denoted by xi. We have already understood and know the formula from the previous video. How do we calculate class mark? Yes, you are correct. Add the lower limit to the upper limit and divide by 2. That means 50 plus 60 divided by 2. That means 110 divided by 2 gives you 55. So easy, right? Can we find out the class mark for the next one and the next one? Yes, we can, but I'm gonna give you a shortcut method to reduce your time in your exams. Now, what is that shortcut method? You can also find out the class mark with the formula previous class marks plus class height. Let's see how do it work. What is the previous class mark which we have right now? That is 55. And what is the class height we have? 10. So 55 plus 10 gives me 65. Is it right? Let's do the usual method. 60 plus 70 will give you 130. 130 divided by 2 give you 65 only. So if you do the usual method, you will get the same value, but you have to do two mathematical processes, that is addition and division. Whereas over here, you just have to do the addition. So let's go with the shortcut method. So what will be the next value? Yes, you are correct. 65 plus 10 give you 75. 75 plus 10 give you 85. And 85 plus 10 give you 95. Now once you are done with this, you have to find out your assumed mean, or you have to consider. Now which one you will consider as assumed mean? You can consider any value from the class mark as your assumed mean. Could be 55, could be 95, could be any of these number. But my personal suggestion would be go for the mid value, that is 75. So I'm assuming 75 as my assumed mean and I'm writing it down on my paper. Don't forget, if you forget this piece of information, if you don't write assumed mean somewhere in your answer paper, your marks will be reduced. Now once you get this, next step is to fill the third column, that is finding out the deviation. Now the formula of deviation is already given. Subtract the class mark from the assumed mean. Let's do that. 55 minus 75 gives you minus 20. 65 minus 75 gives you minus 10. 75 minus 75 gives you 0. 85 minus 75 gives you 10. 95 minus 75 gives you 20. So here your deviations are already present now. Now the last column which you have to fill is very easy. You have to create a product of frequency with the deviation. Let's do the product. Let's do the multiplication. 7 into minus 20, you will get minus 140. 13 into 10, minus 10 gives you minus 130. 20 into 0, anything multiplied to 0 is 0. 6 into 10 gives you 60 and 4 into 20 gives you 18. Now is that table done? No, we have to find out the total. Which total do we find out? We always figure out the total for frequency and FIDN. Let's get the total or the sum of all the frequency values. Let's sum it up. 7 plus 13 plus 20 plus 6 plus 4 gives you 50. So let's write it down. The sum of all the frequency is 50. Now similarly, you have to sum up all the FIDN. Now do remember, be conscious over here. There are some values which are in minus and some are in plus. So you have to total it out very carefully. Over here, minus 140, minus 130, plus 0, plus 60, plus 80 gives you minus 130. So these values are there. Now once you are done till here, if you don't make any mistake till here, I bet you will not do any mistake any further. Till here, if everything is done correctly, your answer is gonna be perfect. Now moving to the second step. What was the second step? Yes, you are correct. Second step was finding out the mean of the deviation. With the formula, we remember the formula? Yes. D bar is equals to sum of FIDI divided by sum of FI. Let's put the value. Sum of FIDI is minus 130 and sum of FI is 50. Let's divide this. Once we divide this, we get the value minus 2.6. Do remember, keep the sign as it is. Whether it is positive or negative doesn't matter. So we got the mean deviation. That's our answer? No, that's just the mean of deviation. We have to find out the mean of the amount of 8. So we have to take the formula of mean over here from assumed mean method. What was the formula? Formula was very simple. It is the sum of assumed mean plus mean deviation which we have just now calculated. So what was the assumed mean which we have assumed? 75 we assume, and the calculated D bar or mean of deviation was minus 2.6. Once you add, you get the value 72.4. So do we have got the values? So is our answer done? No, students. If you leave your answer over here, your 1 mark will be reduced because you haven't given any unit to your answer and your answer statements are missing. Always remember, in such question you have to give the answer statement. So what should I write in the answer statement? Let's see what the question is asking. It is asking the find the mean of the amount of 8. Now we have got the mean of the 8, but is it in the amount form? No. The amount is in 1000 rupees. This is 72.4. If I convert this into 1000 rupees, this will become 72,400. So how do I write the statement? I write it from the question only. The mean of the given amount of aid is 72,400 rupees. That's correct. If you do it till here, no marks will be deducted from your answer sheets. So with this answer, I'm ending this video. Let's meet in the next video where I'll be explaining step deviation method. I know a lot of students have asked me to do a video on step deviation method because it seems very difficult for you guys, but mark my word, it's gonna be very easy. Soon you will find my next video on step deviation method. By that time, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and do hit the bell icon to get the notification related to my upcoming videos. And if you are still looking for more information, more fun fact, more tricks for your exams, do follow us on Facebook by Vision Educare 18, and you can follow us on Instagram as well with the name Vision_Educare.